What do you think about clickbait when it comes to Christian media? On top of that, what is working right now within podcasting? And have you heard about the crazy news with YouTube's censorship? We're going to talk about all that today on GodMade. Let's jump into it. We got some interesting topics today, for sure. As always. But I don't know, Matt, you want to start us out?
Yeah, we'll talk clickbait, which hopefully you're clicking on this video because you saw a thumbnail that got your attention and sparked curiosity. But more importantly, hopefully you didn't click on it and thinking you're going to get one thing and not get the other thing, because that's what clickbait is. I think you start off with like it's misleading people with a title or a thumbnail that gets you to click on it, and then you get to it and you don't like it. But it's a bad practice within the YouTube community, but also I think from a faith-based perspective, it's also not a good thing to be misleading. It's lying, right?
Sure,
and so,
sure.
But what's the line? And that's kind of the conversation I wanted to go is like, how far do you tease someone or open up that loop, that hook to get them intrigued so that, because you want them to click on your video, right?
Yeah.
And so,
when does interesting become manipulation?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the question for sure.
Yeah, and especially, or spiritual manipulation.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. I've got another example to share, but would love to hear your guys' thoughts on.
Well, I mean, I think it's really important as believers that we try as best as we can not to enter into clickbait, because there's always this wrestle that I have with marketing, because marketing gets this bad rap of you're trying to get someone's attention and you're using psychology to lure someone sometimes towards your content. And sometimes I wrestle with the morality of that. Hey, click on me and look at this. As long as I feel really good about the content I'm putting out and feel like what I'm offering is benefiting people, then I'm okay with using natural psychological, principles. It's how we're wired. It's how God made us, right?
Yeah.
To as long as we're not manipulating. I think when it crosses into manipulating for only our gain, if it's for other people's gain as well, and we truly have something that could be of value and they're searching for it, they'll be grateful they've clicked on it, right? But if it can go the other way, right?
Yeah.
Depends on the content, really.
Yeah, I think for me, there's a lot of questions that I ask, right? I think Veritasium, I think it was, did a video on this a long time ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where he's normally like a science YouTuber, right? Like he talks about different experiments and science stuff. But in this video in particular, he's talking about clickbait and the difference between kind of ethical or good clickbait versus like, dangerous and manipulative clickbait. I think there's a big difference there, because if for example, on this video, right, there will be a thumbnail and a title that is to get the attention of the person. If we were just trying to convey information, we would say, Christian creators, valuable tools, like we would just like give them some vague description of what this is, right?
Trying to help you grow your YouTube channel. Like that's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is what we're trying to do, but we need to give them a reason to click on it, right?
Yeah.
And so this video will most likely be packaged in some way where it's taking one of our topics and it's pushing it forward into like, hey, what is the most interesting way that we can convey this thing, right? Where it becomes manipulative or when it becomes dangerous is when you're saying things or using things that are just not in the video at all, or it's like it's a way to get people to click on it and just trick them into watching the video, or at least clicking on it, right? Because most people aren't going to watch for very long anyway, right? So for me, I think about this in like what is the most interesting way that you can convey something that you're talking about on whatever topic that you're talking about it. So a dangerous version of this in Christian space right now is you'll see this video when you're ready, or you'll see this video when the Holy Spirit brings it to you, right?
Yeah.
That's spiritual manipulation.
100%.
Don't like that.
But I think a good version is like there's a bunch of videos that I've had in the past where I'm talking about specific things, or like talking with Dallas Jenkins or whatever else, like about The Chosen. But I am able to use a thing that, sure, some people might misconstrue it, but most people are going to understand like, oh, there's there's something behind this, right? It's kind of hard to explain, but that's where I sit a lot of times, and those videos do really, really well, just depending. But I'd say there's a balance. So it depends on how you define clickbait, I would say.
So I've been doing Google ads, digital ads, Facebook meta ads for some of my events. I remember we built our entire writing worship community from ads and Chrissy appearing on other podcasts and other communities that are working with songwriters. And I remember struggling with the tagline because I was tempted to write something about like, you're gonna, because everybody seems to be doing this, you're gonna have your next #1 hit.
Right.
And the problem, it's multiple things. Number one, we never want to feel like people feel tricked coming into our funnel, for example.
Yeah.
And so we ended up landing on, improving your songwriting and skills, growing your skills and growing your heart towards writing better songs for your church. We feel like we can deliver on that.
Yeah.
As long as we can deliver on that promise, we'll feel good. And no one has said to us they ever felt manipulated coming in.
Yeah.
And we have a burgeoning community. No one ever felt, we usually ask, how did you first hear about us? Well, I saw an ad for the songwriter personality test, or, I watched your video about this or listened to your podcast about this. And you were really helpful. So people willingly we're not going to take the place of the Holy Spirit. We never want to do that. But people feel like, wow, I just kind of found it. And it was just, that's a lot of people will say that. And that's how God works. But if we hadn't have put it out there and began marketing or created the content, they would have never found us either. So there is a part of it where we're working.
Yeah, and I think every individual, you need to check your own heart, and you'll know what you're comfortable with. But I also believe if you do clickbait in a bad way, you're also hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Like YouTube is really smart. Like they're going to know when a lot of people are clicking on it, and then a lot of people are bouncing and not watching it. If it was actually a good clickbait hook that was actually done genuinely, like people would click on it and they're going to keep on watching because the video delivered on what your title, your thumbnail was promising. And so,
sure, yeah. I think that's true for the most part.
What's an example where it's not?
Okay, so Ryan Trahan and Mr. Beast have both done this technique recently. Have you heard of the Sticks guys?
No.
So these guys, they have a channel called Sticks. They're two brothers from Australia, and the idea is that like they're cinematographers. Like they've been making movies their whole life, making these short films, and their goal now, after they've made this YouTube channel and kind of are building it up, the whole goal for the channel has been to make a feature film for Mr. Beast about a social network for his life, right? And that's kind of the idea that they're trying to build up to. So what they've been doing is they make a bunch of different trailers as if they're making movies for other YouTubers. So they'll get real actors who look exactly like these YouTubers, recreate their entire lives, like recreate their childhood bedrooms, like really intense, high level like cinematography, right? It's amazing. I'll send it to you guys later. But since they've been doing that, YouTubers have been picking them up as just like, wow, these guys are amazing at what they do. I really want some high quality like ads or whatever else. So Ryan Trahan and Mr. Beast both have now done basically these pseudo clickbait videos in order to get you into an ad, right? So it looks like a normal Ryan Trahan video when it starts, and essentially what happens is you see really quickly like, oh, this is like really high quality for a Ryan Trahan video. This is a little bit strange, right? And then it kind of transitions into, oh, there's a story behind this, and Ryan's been kidnapped by these guys, and the whole purpose of it is to sell Joyride.
Okay, I've seen this. I saw this video.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's done 2 of those now, 2 different ones for Joyride. And Mr. Beast just did one for his new chocolate milk, right? For his Feastables chocolate milk.
And I saw that also. I didn't know that was done by these guys.
Yeah, so they did it, and so the idea is that it starts out looking exactly like a Mr. Beast video, but then you get into it and you're like, whoa, what is happening here? It's like a completely different thing than I expected, right? That is I think a good way to do it. And so yeah, there's a balance. I think that's on the extreme end maybe. But I think that there's ways that we can utilize that without manipulating, and our audience realizes it. Like as long as you've cultivated an audience that like understands these things, understands how YouTube works and all of that too, I think they're way more open to it, if that makes sense. Like, you're not trying to trick them or like steal their money or anything like that. Your light is on, by the way.
He's shining a light. There he is.
Shine
Salt and light.
That's right.
But I think it depends on what your definition of clickbait is. Because if your definition of clickbait is, I am tricking the audience in order to get them into this video, then I think that's wrong. If your definition of clickbait is, I am doing what I can to get people to click on this video because what I have is valuable or whatever else, I think it's a little bit different. There's a fine line for sure.
Well, because clickbait has a negative connotation, so I prefer to call it a hook. Like, what's going to hook? And even you could even do a hook that's done badly, like with bad intentions. Ultimately, you're just trying. I mean, we all scroll through YouTube, social media, and they're just you need something to stand out, and so, but you got to do that legit, with good intentions.
Yeah.
So.
I 100% agree. If I made a video that was like, if you watch this video within 30 seconds, I will give you $100,000. That's bad clickbait, obviously, right? But for example, one of the videos we did last week, we said, hey, here's my system, how I make $100,000 on YouTube. And like, that is value. That's just like straight up, hey, here's how I do it. Here's how you can do it too, right? And so that's a promise of value that we can fulfill.
I think what it comes down to is, what are your values of your organization, your business, your ministry? If you're running a ministry, again, we talked about you're doing content for the church or for Christians, or you're a believer, a Christian making content for the world to consume. Either way, you have to have company values that you will never, standards that you will never violate. And I think if you run it through that filter, then you'll be fine. And I think there's nothing wrong with it, because the filter makes you come to grips with your values, makes you ask again, okay, what do I stand for? And what will I not stand for? And how can I creatively, it kind of gets the creative juices flowing. A boundary and a limit will always get you to think a little bit more about something. And it might challenge you to come up with a way so that it meets the boundary, that thing that you want to do that's clickable. So it's worth going through the process of being challenged. Maybe, it'd be nice if I could quickly create some content, and be nice if I could, offer $10,000 for you to click on it or something. But it's not really challenging, and I don't think it honors God anyway. At the end of the day, if you're just quickly coming up with something, just to move on. It's laziness.
Yeah, and I think especially in a Christian context, trust is paramount.
Yeah.
And so if I say to someone, I'm going to do this thing, and that thing doesn't happen, then how are they going to react when I tell them Jesus did this thing? And they're not going to believe me then either.
Right, there goes the trust.
Yeah, you don't want to erode that trust away. So question, so the bad examples, of clickbait, even going back years ago on Facebook, there was a Facebook page called Jesus Daily. And it's like 30 million Facebook followers, but they would post a photo and say, comment amen if you know you're going to heaven, or comment amen if you want to go to heaven. And do you, and I've never met the person behind this, but do you think that they are aware of that being not so good, or don't care? Is there...
I would assume it is.
Discernment just complete, like the discernment button, just not, filter not on.
I think that's probably what it is.
They're trying to play a game.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it could be intentional, where they're just trying to farm engagement and they know what they're doing. Or it could just be like, for example, the woman that you interviewed recently that does prayers on TikTok.
Yeah.
There's some things that she's doing that I think are just naive business practices.
Yeah.
That she just doesn't know, or she feels uncomfortable with, or whatever else. And so I would say she could be one of those people that's like, hey, post amen, because she's just trying to like rile up the community and be a part of it. And so I could see both sides. I could see someone being manipulative and doing it on purpose. I could also see people just being naive and thinking that it's like it's just part of what we do,
So if you've got something that you think might be clickbait, comment below, send us a link, and let us
amen in the comments.
Yeah. In fact, if you don't like and subscribe, you're not saved. So
we got an intro. That's got to be our intro.
Obviously not. But
obviously, yeah.
There goes our standards.
I do think, as a last point to this section, I think there are many people that I've tried to teach YouTube or like bring them along. And one of the biggest things that I always get pushback in the first year and a half of them trying is I feel uncomfortable with that title or thumbnail. And I don't think like, you know, like, why can't I just say exactly what it is or whatever else, right? Some people in particular that I'm thinking of that are growing, but like, you could be doing much better if you just create a more clickable thing, right? It doesn't mean that you're lying. Everything that you say is very intentional. It needs to be truthful. But within that, it still needs to be clickable. And so you need to be able to have something that stands out on YouTube that people can look at and say, like, oh, that's interesting. I have to click on that, right? And you're opening what we call a curiosity loop, right? So where you're opening a question and that question has to be answered, and the only way to answer it is by clicking the video and watching it, right?
I'm probably more in the camp. You seem to be really good at that. I'm not very good at coming up with titles and thumbnails. And maybe because I'm very practical and pragmatic.
Yeah.
And I definitely care about like being exactly honest about what I'm saying. But yeah, a lot of times that's really boring.
Yeah.
And you got to be interesting. Another thing I'm not very good at is storytelling. And I think people really want stories to be told, especially on YouTube and podcasting. And so, you know, those are just things that if you're a creator who is in my camp of being that way, it's okay. Like we all have something to learn. I'm grateful for you and you both. You both are very good at this, and so I'm soaking in all of this titles, thumbnails, you know.
And we're all coming at it from different angles too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of what I'm saying that I could maybe go too far sometimes too, right?
We hold you in check a lot.
Right. My wife does a lot, for sure.
Actually, there's one thumbnail that you did, and I thought it was brilliant, and it was either with Judas or Jesus and The Chosen.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, had a picture of Jesus, and it goes, it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
And my initial thought was, you know, you immediately go, oh, is he leaving The Chosen?
Exactly.
And so I was like, okay, I want to click on this.
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh, it's the end of the season.
So that is part of a series that I've done because it started with Philip in season 3 because season 3 was the last time that Philip was in the show. Then season 4 and 5 they replaced the actor with someone else. Right.
I noticed that. Yeah.
And so I was the first person in the world to talk about that period. Right. I figured it out through behind the scenes stuff and everything else, like through like someone celebrating a birthday on set and they're singing happy birthday and they're recording on their phone and they post it later and I see that there's a new actor for Philip. Right. So like there's a bunch of different areas where I put these together. I was like, wow, this is weird. Like, let's just talk about it. Right. And so my thumbnail for that is like goodbye Philip, right? Because the idea is that the actor's leaving and there's something else that's happening here. But the curiosity loop is where's Philip going? What's happening with that, right? And so that opens up a curiosity loop. Same thing with Peter. For example, the actor for Peter never left. Peter never leaves the show. But I have this thumbnail of goodbye Peter because, or goodbye Simon specifically, because his name is going to be changed from Simon to Peter, right? And so it's a curiosity loop that's opened up, and it does act on that fear sense.
It's got a double meaning, but the video then explains what you meant by it.
Exactly. And on those videos, I don't think I have any negative comments being like, hey, you tricked me, I don't like that sort of thing.
Well, it's because you're also delivering value.
Right.
You know, like I may go into it going, oh my goodness, did he leave The Chosen? But then I end up learning something and I don't feel violated because I still came away with something new that I didn't know otherwise.
And so same thing with the Judas video. The Judas video is, this is the last season he's going to be in the season because he is going to die. Like we haven't seen it yet, but in season 6, he will die. Like that's what happens in scripture. We know that that's what's coming. And he just finished his last few days of filming. So me using that was me going in the behind the scenes and showing his last few days of filming and then his final message as he's leaving the series as a whole, right? He's no longer going to be in the series. So it's a pretty big moment for him as an actor. And to see that goodbye was good for them to see. So everybody was excited to see that. So that's, I think, a good example. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Of kind of where I would sit. That's kind of like my line. I wouldn't go past that line to be like, for example, what I could do to get a lot of views is make an AI image of Jonathan like on the cross with like you know, this is what a lot of AI channels do right now is they just create complete fake images of like, hey, here's what's happening in the next season, or here's what they shot today, right?
Yeah.
And it's complete AI videos that steal my content, by the way. They take my transcripts and put them in AI and steal my information. But they just completely make a fake thing and then people watch it anyway.
Yeah.
But those things get hundreds of thousands of views. So maybe I should.
I'd be interested to read the comments though on that. To be, you know, I bet there's some negative comments.
I wish there was more negative comments.
Really?
But not as many.
How many
as
of them are yours?
Yeah, I wish. No, I've made a couple videos about those, but we'll talk about AI channels another time.
Yeah,
that is that's a sore spot for sure. But.
Well, let me this is a good time to take a drink from our mug. Maybe we should take a little drink break here.
Yes.
And if you like these mugs, maybe there's going to be a link somewhere in the...
there's always a link to GodMadeCreators.com.
GodMade merch, GodMade coffee. Good coffee.
You guys want to see a God...
Was that cheesy or what?
No, that was great. You guys want to see a God-led coffee brand? We'll go right at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do not want to do that, but...
I'll take the lead on it.
All right, you want to hop into yours?
Sure. So what I wanted to talk about today is what's working in podcasting. This year, it's 2025. I don't think it's going to change too much in 2026, but I just kind of wanted to hit some highlights. There's 6 or 7 things that have changed. And when I say podcasting, I'm really primarily talking about audio. And some people don't know this, but if you don't have a YouTube Premium account, you will get ads, right? For if you watch this on YouTube, but we have an audio only version. So if you're driving in the car and if you just want the convenience of listening to us, now that you've seen us, you can listen to the podcast on all the platforms, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, etc. But so I'm talking about people who are creators of podcasts, and I think we're pretty broad in who we're trying to talk to. Yes, a lot of people are YouTube creators, but a lot of us, like me, came from the world of audio-only podcasting and creating communities and all that's developed around that. So I want to focus on that. And what prompted it is one of my favorite guys in this space is Pat Flynn.
Yeah.
Smart Passive Income. He's also the... what is this card? Pokemon cards. Deep Pocket Monster.
Yeah.
The guy has recreated brands. He's a brilliant marketer. Well, he did a series about what's working right now in all different things. And this was podcasting. And I thought I'd just kind of highlight the things that he mentioned. And then maybe we could talk about them. So the first one, I'll just list them all really quick. And then we'll dive into a few of them. The first is the TikTokification of podcasting.
Yeah.
Short form content drives long form growth. Video versus audio. We can't escape video in the podcasting space. So let's talk about that. Guest podcasting, how that's changed. That's still working. Community building is huge for podcasting. And then email lists, collaborations, cross promotion. Those are all things that still work. Monetizations, there's super subscription opportunities these days. There are better ways of monetizing communities and affiliates. So I just kind of wanted to highlight a few of them. And I think the main one is that TikTokification of podcasting, because TikTok, and it seems like TikTok drove Instagram to go to Reels. Facebook goes to Reels. Even Snapchat now is going to Reels and YouTube Shorts. So for the first time, I think it's finally become mainstream to do video versions. That discovery is the big reason you want to do videos for your podcast.
Yeah, short form videos in particular. Yeah.
Vertical videos.
As we've talked about before on the podcast, I'm very on the fence about short form content. In some ways, I can see how it can work, but I just think that the outcomes that you want are not provided by short form. And so this is where I would slightly disagree with Pat, because yes, I do think that you can grow your podcast and you can get views through short form content. I think it's very possible. I think you'll grow a ton of subscribers. I think you'll grow a ton of views. However, I do not think those people will ever be engaged as deeply as you want them to be on long form content. Most people that watch shorts primarily on YouTube, they only watch shorts. They treat it as if it's a completely different app. So if you open your YouTube app right now and the last thing that you watched was a short, it never shows you a long form video on the main page. You have to go back to the main page. If the last thing you watched was a short, you have to go back and literally like go to the long form section in order to watch a long form video, because it'll just bring you to shorts and you start scrolling immediately. So it's just like TikTok.
Well, I disagree.
Okay, yeah. This is great. Let's do it.
How about you?
I'm on Brandon's side. I look personally at my consumption of short content and how often do I, after watching a short piece of content, go and watch long form. And I've seen it even with my own channel. I looked at the analytics and it's like I don't see it. So I understand the idea of a short content, whether it's TikTok or shorts, reels. It's kind of the Costco sample of your long form. But like with our short form content for GodMade, I've been adding like our logo and then the Spotify, YouTube, and Apple podcast logo, hoping that kind of makes people go, oh, this is part of longer form content. Because most short content I see, you're getting a great thought, but there's nothing really to prompt you to go, oh, I could listen to more of this.
Yeah.
And so I think you need to, like, if you're going to do the short content, make it clear, like, this is part of a bigger thing. If this interests you, come and check this out.
I think it all depends on what your goals are, right? If your goal is, hey, I just want as many subscribers and views as possible, then yes, I agree. I agree 100%. Yeah. However, in our case, like if you want them to go deep with you, to get into a membership, to go to the conferences, to be a part of what you're doing, I think you have to focus on the long form and really build the community there. And I personally don't think that you're going to get that crossover. It's going to be really hard to. Anyway.
I don't think it's black and white. Sure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who's naturally a long form consumer myself, I started out as a long form consumer and I like to dive deep. If you are already consuming long form content and you see a clip of somebody new, especially with like us, we're launching something new. We absolutely should be creating short form content because we need that discoverability. Yeah. So for discoverability, I think the point is you must have some kind of video for discoverability. It's really hard, especially if you're just an audio podcaster.
Yeah.
How else are you going to be discovered? How else? I know many times, me personally, I would have never known about other podcasts or started listening to a podcast if I had not seen a clip somewhere. It almost
agree.
Happens every time now.
I agree, for sure. I mean, on our videos right now, we're just getting started. YouTube has not sent us into the algorithm basically at all yet.
Yeah.
And so our videos are like our biggest long form video sitting at like 53 views, right? I know that'll grow. I know that YouTube will start to build that, but we send out one short form and it gets thousands of views, right? And so for us, it's like, I understand getting it in front of eyeballs is important. I just don't think it's sustainable forever. And here's my personal, my personal way of looking at it is like, or my personal consumption habits, I should say, are this, which is when I watch short form, I have never, basically ever, gone to a channel and subscribed. However, when I see clips, for example, like a 5 to 10 minute clip of a podcast, and I'm interested in it, I will absolutely go watch the 2-hour full podcast 100% of the time, almost always, if I'm really interested in whatever they're talking about. So for me, that's my natural cadence. And who I think we want to more target. Yeah. But
that might be what we do too. You know, releasing a 5-10 minute clip of one of our topics. Throughout the week on the same channel, right?
Yes. Yes. A lot of people do it on separate channels. I think for us, we'll do it on the same channel. But I do agree, though. I agree and I want to get to the next point too, because I'm sure there's a lot of things you want to talk about. But I do agree that yes, getting in front of eyeballs when you have nothing is probably more important. Yeah, I agree.
Well, one of Pat Flynn's other points is podcasting is the interview format is still alive.
Absolutely.
And I came from radio, and that's podcasting is basically the new AM radio, the new talk radio. Long form conversations. You know, Joe Rogan has mastered this. You know, he'll sit in a room for 3 to 4 hours and talk about every kind of topic and just ramble. But real quick, so tying the interview format back to the shorts, that's my opinion, one of the best strategies is you create shorts so that your guest has something to share.
Exactly.
And then you can glean a few of their followers. They're going to come over and want to hear it from, you know, hear that interview from their social media.
Yeah, I think these are interchangeable. It's not black and white. It's a combination of these things. So clips and or shorts mixed with having great guests that would be willing to share a short or willing to share a clip is really huge. The next episode, I'm going to talk about leverage, and this is just a guest podcasting, being a guest on other people's podcasts, and then also having great guests that would share are some of the most incredible ways that you can collaborate. So I think that's absolutely huge. I don't think any of us really disagree with that.
Well, and our friend Sarah has made a great career by doing shorts first content.
Yeah.
But that's her focus, is she's focusing on shorts. What we're talking about is like, I mean, or what I'm thinking in my mind is shorts as kind of the afterthought. Like, I did my long form content, I want more people to see it, so I'm using shorts to try and drive traffic. And that may or may not work. I don't think it works that effective, but
it just depends. Shorts as a marketing tool can work in certain circumstances. I think for the majority of channels, and I'm biased as well because for my channel, it's never going to work. I don't think, because most of my audience is like way outside the shorts range of age, right?
Right.
Like they're not going to be consuming shorts pretty much at all. And I've done multiple polls and things asking them about this too, trying to figure that out. But I think it can work in certain circumstances. I don't know. I'm on the fence about shorts.
Well, for me, guest podcasting is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Again, I will listen to someone else's podcast. I will subscribe. I will follow their podcast if they are on somebody and they had something really valuable to say and it's a topic I'm interested in. So I'm going to ask all of us to go on lots of different podcasts representing GodMade and Salty Christians and those kind of things, because I think it's really, really huge. I don't know. Do you have a lot of chosen? Have you been on other people's
Not very often, because there's not very much, right? Like, I'm the biggest in my space. So like of the people that like deep dive the Chosen and actually talk about the show, I'm basically the only person that does it in the way that I do it.
Yeah. Have you started getting any requests to be on yours or any collabs at all?
There's a very few. A couple, but most people are like, hey, do you want to do this? And then nothing ever happens again. So that's kind of the way it's worked right now. Obviously, I've had like Dallas on my show, or I've done stuff with the Chosen before. Obviously, I've been invited to Chosen Con, things like that.
Yeah.
But nothing to the effect of like, come on, or the Brosen. The Brosen is a good example. I've been on the Brosen, which is like the crew of the Chosen. They have the assistant director and stuff. I'm good friends with them.
Yeah.
They have their own podcast that helped them start.
I love that.
So,
I love that. Brosen.
So do you think a podcast can be successful today without the video component?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if it's a storytelling. Now, as far as marketing and discoverability, I think you absolutely should at least record, and that was one of Pat's points, is you should record some video, even if it's just a promo or just like a clip of the two of you and you and your guest or whatever, making a video for socials. I think socials, you have to be on socials in some way, and YouTube to get discoverability. So I do think, like, I listen to Red Pilled America, and they up until just recently, they've been hugely successful building just a storytelling podcast.
But how long have they been doing it?
Well, for a very long time. Yeah, since 2018.
Yeah, so social media and video will be a kind of a jump start to your podcast. Because to your point, like, I can't tell you, I mean, the only podcast that I discover is either from social media or from a friend saying, check this podcast out.
It's really hard
because
to get
podcasting, there's no algorithm, which is a good thing to some extent. But how are you going to find out about it? Like, you don't open up your podcast app and have suggested podcasts based on your previous listening.
Yeah. I definitely still believe in an audio only podcast, but it's absolutely essential that you do some video component because it's just too hard to do discoverability without it.
Or if you don't want to do, because I understand also if you're starting a new podcast, you love the idea of GodMade and you've got a podcast idea, but that's just one other layer to, and you're doing this on the side, maybe be a guest, what we were talking about, start your podcast and really hone your audio and your storytelling, and then go be on some other channel, podcasts that have the video component.
That's a big thing, just to get started. It's a lot easier to get started as just an audio only and making a few videos on socials. So again, if you feel overwhelmed by all these cameras and all the things that you have to learn, start off with just an audio podcast. Hone your skills. Make a lot of mistakes with a smaller audience until you feel like you've really gained something.
And then eventually maybe set up your phone on a tripod.
Yeah.
And start to get some video footage that you could do and get comfortable in front of the camera, but one thing at a time.
One thing at a time. One thing at a time. Another thing that's really working in podcasting, and I do want to talk about this, and I think this is essential for us, is community building.
Yeah.
Even a micro community. We connected because of a community, the three of us.
Yep.
We see community as a huge part of how we will grow this, because we are looking to connect with other creative entrepreneurs out there in the world. And the fact that we can, our vision is to create smaller meetups all around the US and internationally. Our vision is to potentially have online meetups where that might be a mastermind format, etc. So having that connection and using platforms like Circle, Discord. You're a Discord guy. I'm a Circle guy. So I built a couple of different communities on Circle. It's been fantastic for us. Discord. I've never tried LinkedIn or WhatsApp groups, but apparently those are really popular for podcasters right now because it gives you a chance to continue the conversation from what you talked about in your podcast. So it's a great way to connect with fans afterwards. If you can't do a live stream, this is one thing I'm surprised he didn't say is live streaming.
Yeah,
because I think live streaming is the big thing right now that can really it enables you to do something on a regular basis, connect with your fans on a regular basis and your listeners, viewers. And it enables you to put out multiple pieces of content, which is what you're doing. I think you've pretty much built your chosen sleuth on live streams.
One community. You're able to engage with people real time.
Yeah, you're getting to meet all these wonderful, 65, 70-year-olds.
I love them. I love them. I think they're great. Yeah. I 100% agree. I think live streaming is something that is so overlooked in a lot of cases when it comes to content creation. And I think it should be looked at more. I think especially with the new updates that YouTube just did, we just put out a video on the channel talking about all these new YouTube updates. And one of them that is really exciting for me is being able to shift from a open public live stream to then shut it down to be a members only live stream within the same live stream. So what I do now is I do a public live stream that is 3 or 4 hours long, and then afterwards, like right after I'm done, I change it to be a members only stream on YouTube. So what it's going to do is, let's say I have I'm what we call like a 600 to 1,000 CCV Andy, right? Which is like,
what is that? Explain that to me.
So like 600 viewer Andy means like, it's just like a guy that gets around 600 viewers on average concurrent, right? So if I throw up any live stream on a Sunday night during my normal time, I'm probably going to have around 600 to 1,000 concurrent viewers that are there
throughout that period of time,
at one time throughout. So throughout the entire night, it probably looks more like 6,000 to 7,000 people.
So maximum at any given time, between 600 to 1,000.
Hopefully minimum 600. Yeah, that would be if it was less than like 400 or 500, I'd be like, this is a bad stream. Like, what is happening right now? But we grew up to that point, right? There's been a lot of streams in the past where I had 100 people or whatever else that we grew up to that number, right?
Do you have a hard time keeping up with comments, or is it just the right stream of comments where you can kind of read and interact?
For me, it's pretty good. Like I don't have too much of a hard time, but I lock it down pretty hard. So I have, You have to be subscribed, so I don't deal with trolls or bots that are coming in. I have mods that take care of people that are too out of hand.
That are automatic.
Like that. Yeah, so I have it set up to you have to be subscribed for I think 5 minutes or 1 minute. So like you can't have a bot that comes in, subscribes, leaves a bunch of like derogatory messages or something like that. That protects it there. And then I've got my mods that take care of things there. A lot of people though, like 40% of my people watch on TV, so they're never going to chat ever. Like not even ever. You know, you can't chat on TV. So what happens sometimes is they get into the community, they watch on TV every single week, but then eventually they'll have their TV and then they'll have their phone where they're like chatting and talking on their phone and then they're watching on the TV. So sometimes that will happen. But generally they're not doing that. They're just watching on their TV and they're not chatting. But there's the people that are there every single week that want to chat and they want to be part of the community and things like that too.
Do you release an audio version of your stream?
I don't. I tried it for a little bit. It's just the workflow for it's just annoying to me, so I haven't. I probably should. Mike tells me that I should. I tried it for a while and I just got bored of it. So I stopped.
I get it. It is kind of in some ways it's an afterthought especially if you're a video first podcaster.
Yeah.
Well, and so much of what you do is you're also showing behind the scenes clips and there's a visual component of it. And there's nothing more annoying than listening to a podcast and then and here we're showing you this graph.
That's true. That's true. You are, and you're really good at that. I actually watched your latest video that you made for GodMade on TV, and it was just such a great experience. Because you're screen sharing, and then but yet I can see your face there, and it's just you do it so well. It's just a natural.
And we'll have some of that here as well. Like we're gonna talk about some things later, but like this is an easy format too, to where we can pull up some clips and talk about specific things and all of that as well. So I love that kind of thing.
So I wish we could have more. We'll link to the article so that people can kind of read up on what's new in podcasting. But big takeaways. Consistency in podcasting separates winners from quitters. Simply sticking around puts you in the top tier. I didn't mention this, but most podcasts don't get past 10 episodes. So the fact that you just get to 10, that's a great initial number just to get started. People that get to 100 plus episodes are in the top 5% of podcasts out there in the market. So that's one thing. Consistently showing up is really big. Content multiplication. We did touch on this a little bit. One long form episode can fuel dozens of short form clips. You do this very well. We talked about that. Guest podcasting, email lists, collabing, and community remain timeless strategies for podcasts. It depends on the topic, but there are some wonderful ways to build community from certain topics better than others. And video, increasingly essential for growth, but audio only is still viable for loyal audiences. We talked about that too.
Yeah. And there's some people that are just used to audio only, that are on their commutes or whatever else, or they're going for runs and they're looking for podcasts.
Well, you think of true crime is a big podcasting medium, audio medium, and because it gets that imagination going, and it's a storytelling one. And you know, I think that's what's working.
Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't matter what we talk about at all if it's censored.
Yes. Look at that segue.
Great transition.
So let's talk about this. So I wanted to talk about free speech and censorship. Let's first start with something that happened a little while ago, which was the whole Jimmy Kimmel stuff. Jimmy Kimmel, best friends with Mark Rober, if you didn't know that.
Did not know that.
And obviously, he's on the YouTube space, but he's obviously on TV most of all. Has been canceled and then reinstated. And so canceled for saying some pretty harsh things online. A lot of people are blaming like the administration, some different things like that. But obviously, it's just his bosses that had the oversight to take him off, right? And so they decided what he said was uncouth, and they didn't want that sort of rhetoric. But then it turns out in his contract or whatever that he has some protections and some different things in there, so they reinstated him in the place. But there are certain platforms that are still not going to air him. Right. Even though they wanted to. So what are your thoughts on this? Let's start there.
Well, he's under a different license than most podcasters and creators. His contract and the way it's structured is, and I studied this when I was in, this goes way back when I was in the 90s when I was in college. I studied as a television radio broadcasting major, and I had to learn all of the licensing terminology, et cetera. So, but I'm a little rusty on it now. But basically, the way ABC, NBC, CBS functions is they are actually supposed to be, the content they create is supposed to be for the common good, and you're supposed to present both sides of an issue, or bring two sides. Yeah, because at the time when these things were started, it was a very limited. It was a pretty big deal to get a license to broadcast on the airwaves nationally, and you had to make sure that it was for the common good of the citizens of our country. And now that sort of, of course, then we had cable, which isn't under the same license, and now we have all the internet is definitely not under the same license. So it's very antiquated what he has to work under, but unfortunately, you have to work with the local affiliates, and I know some of the local affiliates are still not carrying. I think there's about 60 or so as of today that are not carrying Jimmy Kimmel and deciding to play something else, not the national broadcast. And it's all because of this license that they are required to carry. So, and uphold. So to me, yes, in general, I am a big believer in free speech. I think everybody should be, whether I agree with them or not, I think they should be able to give their opinion and be able to say what they want to say, even hate speech to a certain extent.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
But in this case, you have to look at that lens through the license.
And you have to look at it through the lens of an employee. And so, yes, I believe that you should be able to say whatever you want outside of threats, of violence, and different things like that. Or like calling for fire in a theater, right? Yeah. When it comes to the government, you should be able to say whatever you want. They shouldn't be able to jail you. However, if I have an employee that's saying every day that my wife is a prostitute and and saying whatever he wants, I'm firing that guy immediately. There's nothing that's going to stop me from taking that guy out of my organization because I control it, right? Yeah. Which is where I think the Jimmy Kimmel thing gets blown out of proportion a little bit, because he's an employee that did something that his employers didn't like, and so they punished him for that. It's not like Trump pressed a button and was like, now I get to fire Jimmy Kimmel. He doesn't really have any power there.
Well, I think the FCC chairman did say some hinting at, we're going to maybe have to come after you, which I don't think that's right unless there was legitimate reasons to.
Sure.
So I understand that when our government starts to step into this, you don't want to be a dictator and threatening.
Yeah.
I just go back to I would not be surprised if Jimmy Kimmel is off the air in 6 months from now, just from the pure economics of, is he making money? I'm not really well versed in the whole Stephen Colbert thing on CBS, but I do know that I've seen that it's losing money. It's losing millions of dollars. And so and I think I read Jimmy Kimmel makes about $90,000 per episode. Well, he's making his YouTube, when he puts puts his show on YouTube, it reaches more people on YouTube.
Yeah.
But he's getting paid for his television broadcast of his show.
Yeah.
They're not making that money back with, maybe they're on ads, but I guarantee you they're not making money off of this. So from just a purely business standpoint. So I just don't want to conflate the two and be oh, ABC, Disney is taking them off because of the fear from the government.
Right.
When in reality, it's probably they're maybe looking for an excuse to get rid of them if they're not making money off of it.
Right.
I don't know. That's my take on it.
I fully support that it's a business decision.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that some of the politics stuff kind of got mixed in, and you can't help that to happen sometimes. But don't believe the lie that it's purely similar to other people who've been sort of canceled. I think one of the things you're going to talk about next is similar, and I think that's more of a concern to me and what we're doing as creators than others.
I think it'll affect us more, which is we see this thing with Jimmy Kimmel. It's interesting, but doesn't really have a bound on us. It's dealing with all these licensing things. It's dealing with the FCC. It's dealing with a lot of these things that aren't in our sphere. However, what is in our sphere is that just yesterday or a couple days ago, YouTube announced and told us essentially that they were censoring things because Biden's administration asked them to.
That's crazy.
and even banning channels because the administration asked them to. So similarly to what we saw at Twitter, whenever the Twitter files were released, we're seeing things that are unprecedented for a president to do, right?
Yeah.
For an administration to do in the time of COVID and all that kind of stuff. So it's to the point where YouTube admits so much of their fault that they are now having a whole entire program that is just dedicated to reinstating channels that they banned during COVID and some of these other times.
So this news really kind of puts the Jimmy Kimmel thing into perspective.
Yes.
Because I want to see both sides. Like, I don't want to just go, okay, this is my political allegiance, and my side can do no wrong.
Yeah.
And so, but then hearing this, it's like, okay, FCC chairman says to ABC, you better get your guy in under wraps because he said some offensive things.
Yep.
I'm not for that. But this is like another level. Like overtly saying censor and take it down. Like totally different.
Because it was COVID and because it was so important, they capitalized, unfortunately, really not just unfortunately. It's terrible what was done, to be honest. And the pressure, not just Google, but Facebook also felt it. And obviously Twitter felt it so much that they ended up selling to Elon Musk, which was really for a while was the only place where you could have like somewhat open dialogue about dissenting opinions from what. And we were being called as misinformation, the people who were canceled.
And this isn't for like crazy opinions either.
No,
it's like,
it seemed like practical.
It's like vaccine stuff, mask stuff, like during that time at least. And then it turned into, you like this political figure, you can't be allowed to speak anymore.
Yeah.
Which is like with all the talk of like tyranny and like all this stuff, it's just like it blows my mind that you could speak out of two sides of your mouth. And we're not a political podcast, but like this is I think a way bigger news than people are like it should be like I don't know.
It should be bigger news, but because there is such a bias towards one side, to the left, in mainstream media in particular. I mean, no one can deny that. You're not going to hear about it nearly as much because it doesn't look so good, for that side to be able to have this stuff come out. But the other thing that's concerning, that's related to this, is what's happening in Europe. As of this recording, we're still seeing stuff like this happening in Europe. As a matter of fact, it's much more prevalent in Europe. I think a comedian was just arrested a few weeks ago because of something he tweeted while he was in America. He came back and was arrested for the comments that he posted. Germany went through a season where they were just arresting all kinds of people for things that just were deemed as potentially hateful and damaging or misinformation. I mean, there is a tremendous amount of canceling and taking down of people who don't have the freedom of speech. So much so that they're trying to affect what's happening in the United States through their laws in Europe, because our social media obviously goes all over the place. So it's a challenging time that we're in, and I think I'm a little bit worried about that. For the future.
Because for us, it's going to determine things. Like we were talking about the other day, how there's this TikTok culture of like, instead of saying kill, you say unalived, or like you can't say certain words, right? And like I've never found on YouTube that has affected anything that I've ever done, right? I see that the majority of people are like understanding, like, hey, if that's like your topic, like if you're talking about something that's like a true crime podcast or whatever, like you don't have to use this coded language. Like as long as you're not doing it maliciously or in a way that's like, going to break the advisory of YouTube in the sense of like, I'm promoting murder or something like that. Like, then you're going to be fine generally. But people are wanting to be more safe than sorry, I think, in that too. But
do you think they're doing that because they're fearful of their account being shut down, or is it more of like a PC to not say those kind of things?
It's definitely that they don't want their account to be shut down, and they don't want their money to be shut off, right? But in this case, where YouTube is censoring stuff that's on the platform, it's like, I mean, imagine you're one of those creators, and I know that there's fringe creators. Like, I don't know, I don't know all of them. I don't really watch them, but I hear names like Nick Fuentes or Alec Jones and things like this, and like people that are maybe like they've said some stuff that, okay, maybe legally they should probably be in trouble or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of general creators that I'm sure were affected by all this as well, either losing out on impressions, being banned completely or whatever else. And so that I think is what it affects it. But with the TikTok culture of like having these coded languages, like even Ruslan will say, instead of LGBTQ, right, he'll say LGTV, right? Because it's like a coded way of saying like that movement, right? And so it's just, I don't know. For me, it annoys me more than anything because words do mean something. And so when you change the phrasing of things to be something else, I think it hurts the message that you're trying to communicate overall, and it makes it less than, right?
You said something, Matt, where you were just saying, do you think they're fearful? And that's what concerns me more than anything. As a believer, if we are motivated by fear if we're afraid to speak our position as believers, as Christians, and be able to make arguments from a Christian worldview, it concerns me if I can't do that. And nothing goes well, I think, if we do things from a place of fear, in my opinion. I think there's a tremendous amount of manipulation that happens when you. I guess my point is, as a Christian creator, if I sense that I'm not doing something because of any amount of fear, I think that's something you have to sort of say, all right, what's going on here? And how am I going to deal with it? And where does my true courage come from? And it's not that you want to be stupid, but fear, if you're sensing fear in the content you're putting out or just trying to please a certain thing, I think it starts to become like, okay, well, who's my God here? And why am I doing this? So it's just important to be aware of that.
I think it's important as a God-made Christian content creator to understand free speech and what does that mean and what does it not mean, and just really do be well versed in it. But then also the fear that I have as we see society, the trends that we kind of are black and white and we lump people in, like just going back a month or two ago with Charlie Kirk and how people could not, I'm speaking generally here, but would not want to be lumped in with Charlie Kirk because he was so tied to politics. But yet many times he would just talk about his faith. And so I think I would hate to see these platforms that we used sharing content to one day go, well, there's some things in the Bible that are considered hate speech, so therefore all things are going to be lumped in there. So like with, during the Biden administration, if you had a channel that was, against vaccines, like therefore all of your content, we're going to shut down your entire channel, And so as a content creator, like I don't want to live in that fear, but it's also being smart, or, unalived. Like, let's say I'm doing a Bible study about Cain and Abel, and I'm going to have to censor the Bible and go, Cain unalived Abel, and it's,
or worse, you're talking about, Tamar being sexually assaulted, and like there's so many things. Like I've talked about on my channel. I talk about all these things. There's instances where I have to talk about rape. There's instances where I have to talk about murder. There's instances where I have to talk about these different things. I've never had an issue because I think the context in which I'm talking about it is completely fine. But I get the fear of like, oh no, what happens if my entire platform goes away, which is more real now in an even more unfair way because of this news, right? Imagine if whatever administration it is, right, whether it's the Trump administration or the J.D. Vance administration, whatever it is, right, in the future, whatever happens, the Kamala administration in 2030, whatever, but whatever happens, right, imagine there's a YouTube which is so affected by the government that we can't even talk about homosexuality anymore, right? Where everybody else is able to talk about whatever they want, but because we're Christians, we are banned from certain topics. Imagine that world, right? Because it's a reality that could exist now that we have this information that YouTube listened to this administration and banned and suppressed people that we had at the time. We're like, why aren't we seeing these things? Why are these people, like, why did this account get fully demonetized and they disappeared from YouTube? That's weird, It's like, now that we have confirmation that that's actually what happened, I think it's a lot scarier.
And I think it's even more important that we also stand up for the speech that we don't agree with today. Because we realize that every 4-year cycle, it could switch.
That's
you
true.
know? And
That's
so
true. Yeah.
we need to also speak up and go, yeah, I don't agree with what they're saying, or that might offend me, but that is again, that's where I remind people, like, let's go learn what is free speech, and also understand you have the free speech, but there are consequences to it. So separating the legal ramifications versus the economic of it. And so we could go and say all kinds of crazy things on here, but maybe all of the viewers that we have are going to leave, or we're going to get demonetized. Like, no one's going to want to sponsor that because we're running our mouth.
Or if we have jobs outside of this, those jobs could be affected by what we say, et cetera, et cetera. Which is what we're seeing now. I mean, a lot of the stuff with the Charlie Kirk stuff, with people spouting off whatever they wanted to online, a lot of that came back to bite them. I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are losing their jobs because of their free speech.
They had free speech, but there's consequences to that. And and that goes both sides. So
which one of us do you think is more likely to mouth off and get us in trouble?
I think it's 1,000% me. Like 1,000%.
Probably.
Me.
Yeah.
I grew up. Most of my career, I've been in Christian radio, and they have no tolerance for anything. Like, figure out middle of the road. So I'm pretty good. My filter is probably extra polished.
Yeah, and I've dealt with a ton of PC stuff over the years. So I kind of have been trained, but I'm a lot looser than I used to be. So I'd probably be a close second.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of times on my channel where I'm like, okay, what are the consequences of me talking about this thing? Okay, God wants me to talk about it. I'm doing it anyway.
And that's the filter. That's the filter, because I mean, we kicked off this episode talking about clickbait.
Yeah,
and there is a temptation to pick a topic for your video or podcast that you know is going to get someone riled up.
Right.
And that's what our social media people, that's what all these social media companies do. They know that they're going to make more money if we're angry. That's what Fox News, CNN News, MSN, like, they know if you're angry, you're going to watch longer, thus you can sell more ads. So, but as a God-made Christian content creator, are we doing this because God's told us, like, yeah, you got to talk about this polarizing thing? Or are we doing it going, ooh, this might get me, more subscribers and more views and more money? We need to have higher standards and higher filters for our content.
Agreed.
Yep. Another great clickbait video of mine is I did a video called that was just titled "I'm Leaving the Church."
Yeah.
Because I left my home church and came here to Tennessee.
There you go.
But I mean, that's what happens. You know? Anyway, let us know what you guys think about clickbait, about podcasting, and about free speech. Lots of stuff in this one. But yeah, quite interesting.